Hey everybody, Mike Nelson from Five Towers Media talking to you today about the effect AI is having on marketing. There are a lot of changes happening, as we all know. One thing that we see is that consumer behavior has changed at an alarming rate compared to what people are still doing for their marketing efforts. Bottom line is, brands are not keeping up with what consumers are doing and where you're going to show up. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And we're going to not just use my own information. We're actually going to do a little quick screen share here so you can see some stats from Claude. I'm going to walk you through those stats real quick, and then I am going to talk a little bit about what you could and should be doing in order to overcome these obstacles. All right, so let me just share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see what I'm looking at here. So a couple of things. One, there's actually 5 things. 5 towers, 5 things. We love the number 5, guys. What happens after the search? So traditionally for the last 20 years, let's say, what we have done as marketers, what consumers have done is when they were looking for some sort of answer, they did a Google search, right? Up until recently, that was like 89, 90% of the marketplace. Now, what's happening is that people are doing Google searches. 68%, as you can see, number 1 here, of US Google searches now end without a single click. Not a click, 68%. And if you scroll down to number 2 here, where it's worst, 77% of those people that are searching on mobile devices end without a click. So what that means is looking for clicks, especially on an organic side, is no longer what we should and could be spending our time, money, and resources on. I'm not saying abandon it. And again, we'll get into that a little bit. However, when most of the people, the majority of people are not clicking from Google to go to your website anymore, we need to alter our strategy. Okay. Let's go down to number 3 here. People who ask now, 45% of consumers used AI to find a local business this year. That's up from 6% in 2025. That's a huge jump in a very short amount of time. That's that consumer behavior that we're talking about that's changing very quickly. And again, most of us are not keeping up with this and not changing our strategy based on what our potential clients are doing. Now, I would also argue that 45% is low. And the reason why I would argue that is because when you start digging into how this information is put together to give us that percentage, it's very convoluted and really relies on data from platforms that may be skewed in the platform's behavior. So, and again, it's not an accusation. It's just that it is so confusing, all the data. And depending on what questions you ask and what sources you go to, that number can change and will change. All of these numbers do. So I would look at it as being a conservative estimate, but I would argue that it's higher. What sits above the map pack? Okay, 68% of local searches now show an AI summary above the map listings. Now, if you're familiar with the map listings, for years now, we've focused trying to be on the top of that map listings. And now, as you can see, the AI summary is often above that. Not always, by the way, but often above that. And that AI summary, as we showed earlier, is where people are stopping. They're going to the AI summary and they're getting answers there. And then in a lot of cases, they're going direct to a website from the answer that they found in the AI summary. And it may be anecdotal, but what I always say to people is think about how you are currently searching right now, right? When you need an answer, when you're looking for a service or product, what is your process? Are you doing a Google search? Are you even going to Google? Like me personally, I don't even really go to Google anymore unless I've already had a conversation with Claude and I've found a company. And then I actually go to Google to get to their Google business profile. And then from there, I'm looking at reviews, I'm looking at their posts, I'm maybe clicking to their website or clicking the call button. That's my process. I don't think that I'm alone in that, guys. So I would think about what you do. How do you right now search for answers when it comes to services and products that you're going to potentially purchase? Are you even going to the maps anymore unless you need directions? So consider that. One last piece here, the upside. Okay, so visitors sent by AI convert at more than 4 times the rate of regular search traffic. To understand what that means is that people are already super educated. They've had full-on conversations either with Gemini or Perplexity or Grok or Claude or ChatGPT. They have had a whole conversation, which would have normally been the research they did on Google. And now they've already got the answer. They already know. And they're now going from that. Maybe they're clicking, or maybe they're going direct by putting the website link or name of the company that they came up with in their AI engine. And they're going to a website and they're filling out a form. They're clicking a call button, or maybe if you're an e-commerce site, they're buying directly from your site. So that's 4 times. It's a big, big number. We're going to continue to see that number rise. Also, I would say one more thing is that number came from, if you can see in the citation, came from June of 2025. So at this point here, we're a year later, that number is probably higher, especially as consumer behavior continues to accelerate into almost no traditional search and using AI engines to get educated and help making informed buying decisions. So what does that all mean? What can you all do? What it means is this: there's a huge opportunity for most companies to do things they're not currently doing. And it comes to, well, a dozen behaviors, but really there's like the top 5 numbers. Remember, we love the number 5. The first thing is your website. There is a lot that you can do on your website. We're probably going to do another video that focuses just on your website. However, here's what I'll give you as far as your website goes. It can't be just an online brochure anymore. There needs to be constant updates, whether it's fresh blogs, FAQs, Q&As. You want to make sure that you are constantly adding things to your website that is contextual in how conversations are going to go in these chat engines. Because realistically, that's what these chat engines are looking for. They're looking for answers to questions that people are putting into Claude, putting into chat. And if the answer is not on your website's not going to be cited. It's not going to be pulled into that answer, into that AI summary, and you're going to lose out. Okay. So that's the one thing. And that's stuff that you can probably do on your own. From a lot of brands, you're self-administering your website, you're doing your own blogs, you're doing your own changes there. A lot of that stuff can be done. You don't need to hire a company like us in order to do it. However, there is a whole technical side to this conversation that helps what's called LLMs, large language models, to understand context. And that's the more technical stuff. And that is something that I would argue should be done by a company like ours. You need to not just focus on keywords and metadata anymore. There's a whole nother thing called schema that needs to be updated on the back end of your website. And it doesn't just stop there. You need to make sure that there are other files on your website that can allow these chat engines like ChatGPT and Claude to be able to actually read the information on your website. So not only do you want the information on your website, but you need to give the ability to these engines to see that information, and it needs to be structured properly in order for them to get what they want out of it. Okay, so it is a little bit more technical. It's for a lot of brands, and I can't say everybody, but for a lot of brands that really just don't understand the technical side of things, or maybe they just don't want to because they want to focus on actually running their business. That's where you're going to want to engage someone that is familiar and up to date on all these things. One last piece on your website. Your website is the source of truth for your business, right? It's where everything that you do, who you are, any information that people may want to know about your company should be on your website. Okay. And you have to understand it's kind of like the data input for all these Claudes and Chat GPTs. It's, if the information is not on your website, it can't just magically pull it from somewhere else. Okay. So you need to make sure that everything you can talk about on your website is there. Your service area, the places that you work in, what you do, how you do it, who you are. There's no end to it, to be fair. And it's not something that has to happen all at once, but it is something that on a month-to-month basis needs to be updated and changed and added to. So it's very important that you stop ignoring your website and that you start making changes to it on a regular basis. Okay. Website. Another one is going to be your Google business profile. Now, why? Because Google, right? They own the Google business profiles. Their chat engine, Gemini, pulls directly from your Google business profile. And it's not just about having a business listing. Okay. So again, just like your website, gone are the days where you have a Google business profile and you ignore it. There are multiple things that you can do on your Google business profile aside from just having the information there, like your address and your phone number and your website and your menu if you're a restaurant, and those kinds of things. There's also the ability to post to it, similar to a social media channel. However, the posting, you want it to be a little bit different. Okay. You need to focus on context, where, what, how, why, those kinds of things. Another thing is the reviews. Obviously they have mattered for years now, but they matter even more. Okay. So you don't want to just get reviews. You want to get reviews and you want to answer them, and you want to answer them contextually, right? There needs to be context. It used to be content is king. I'm starting to think that maybe context is king. Okay. So making sure that you're getting reviews, and the strategy here on reviews is not to go out and get 500 reviews all at once. The strategy is going to be getting them on a consistent basis week to week, because this new word that I keep talking to our clients about, recency, is you need to have recent reviews. If you got 500 reviews, but you haven't gotten one in 6 months, and your competitor has 50 reviews and they've gotten 2 in the last week, that's recency. And you need to keep filling it. Okay. I know it's great news for marketing companies, not great news for brands, because what it basically is implying for both your website and your Google business profile is that you now need to have constant activity on these channels. Excuse me. One more thing I'm going to talk about is going to be third-party mentions and or earned media. So earned media is like your local newspaper writes an article on your business. Okay. Third-party mentions are going to be like your local chamber of commerce, like the amazing folks at the ARCC or the amazing folks at Saratoga Chamber. Them mentioning you on their website, having a business listing on their website. This also goes for trade organizations. So let's say you're a contractor and you're a part of NESCA. Okay. Being a part of those organizations is important. Having a business listing in those organizations is important. Essentially, what we're talking about is, if you remember the term backlinks, this is similar to that, right? But it's helping to get backlinks, get mentions, get third-party information about your business out there on the internet, brings back to you, that helps with digital authority. It's going to help with you showing up in AI results. There are some important things to understand about this with the business listing side, as you want to make sure that your name, address, phone number across all of those platforms are consistent. If you start having conflicts, like let's say Chuck's Landscaping, and on some listings there's no apostrophe before the S, and on other listings there is an apostrophe before the S, that's going to cause a conflict. That's actually going to hurt you. So your name, address, phone number, you want to make sure that that is consistent across all platforms. And again, obviously we own Buying Local, which is lucky for the market that we've moved into, because it's made things like entities like Buying Local much more important, because those, again, earned media, being the ability to get an article done on your business and getting it done frequently with recency, has never been more important. And, it's not just Buying Local though. It's Saratoga Today, it's the Post-Star, the Chronicle, the Times Union, any and all media outlets that you can get them to do a story about you, get them to publish a press release. If they have business listings, having a business listing on that website, all of these things are going to be super important in the age of AI marketing. A couple other things to mention, but I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to keep you here all day. However, YouTube and having YouTube videos, both long form and short form videos, have increasingly become more important. Obviously it's the Google effect, but there's other reasons, and we'll probably do a whole nother video just about why YouTube has become important. Of course, there's very easy, simple ways to be able to create YouTube content. This is one of them. Having a podcast is another one. And you can start there, but also doing how-to videos that have to do with your product and service, review videos, those kinds of things. Okay. So YouTube has become increasingly important. When it comes to social media, there is a case for LinkedIn articles being very important, not as important as a business page post or a personal page post. And really, we're going to have to do a whole segment on social media talking about Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and how these affect AI marketing. However, what I'm going to say is the three things of your website, Google Business Profile, and just blanked out, earned media, third-party mentions, those are the top three. And depending on what conversation you have with what platform, you can have an argument about things like Reddit and Yelp and all those other things. However, the three things that you control the most are going to be your website. Number one, you have the most control over your website. Number two, Google Business Profile. And then number three, earned media. A little less of control over that. Of course, you can, like I said, submit press releases and things like that, but sometimes not that easy to get press outlets to do stories on you and your business, but you need to try. Okay. So thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. My email, Michael, Michael at 5towers.us. Happy to answer any questions. Doesn't mean I'm trying to sell you something. If you're familiar with our company, you know that we are here to give unwavering support to the local small business community. We want to help you understand. If it leads to us working together, great. If it doesn't, great. We just want to make sure you're getting support that you need. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time, and stay tuned. We'll be putting out some more content on the effect of AI marketing.